Now,
comparatively speaking to what we've seen before.
Facebook bought Oculus, what is it called?
Yeah, they bought
From,
Oculus. That was a private
okay,
company. They bought it, and then they tried to turn it into
from,
the next big thing, and that didn't do well. And they called it
okay,
Meta, and then they
so
changed the company name. They were so in
so
on
let's
this.
let's talk about this
Yeah,
in tech and new companies. So they bought it from a person named Palmer Luckey or Lucky,
I don't remember.
Luckey. They bought it
Mm-hmm.
from him, okay? He was later fired by Facebook for reasons I'm not going to go into here because it has to do with politics, things like that. Not that we don't discuss politics, but I don't want to go off subject here. But what's interesting is that this fellow that invented or created this Oculus, the VR stuff,
Mm-hmm.
virtual reality glasses, got fired, and he's now co-founded a company called Anduril, Anduril Industries, and they are basically making or hope to make jet fighters that are pilotless. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they're using AI, and of course they'll be using quantum. They use this thing, as I spoke about before, called CCA, continuous configuration automation, and they're developing new technologies. So to bring this full circle, okay, this is what companies have to do to survive and stay at the forefront with not only branding and growth, they have to be able to prove to the public that these things are needed. Is Apple going to still be needed in the way that it's needed now, 10 years from now? And how
Yeah.
does Berkshire Hathaway handle that? Do they start to sell the stock quietly, do you think?
I think if they do, they don't dump it because they're not going to want to. That'd hurt the company. That's a lot of stock. I think that we already know it's an open secret that Berkshire Hathaway has amassed a ton of cash by quietly selling off shares of other
Yes.
companies and so on. They've divested themselves from a lot of stuff. They're not saying why. They're just saying, like they said at their company thing the other day, they're just saying, no, you just want to stay,
Well,
nimble and ready to go for the next big opportunity. And who knows, maybe that's
but Buff,
quantum or something. But
yeah,
if they do it,
but
they'll probably do it quietly, I
But
guess.
Buffett has been talking about this fairly openly, and he said it's because he doesn't see value around there. And that's what people were
Mm-hmm.
wondering about from the May 3rd meeting, whether he would say, I see a lot of value out there now. He didn't say that publicly,
No. Mm-mm.
okay? But the stock market has recovered fairly nicely in a way the last couple of weeks.
For
Okay,
now.
we'll talk about that soon. So let's go into another subject. Let's get away from Berkshire Hathaway. Let's talk about tacos. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know what you're tacoing about. All right.
The
Have you seen the
expression,
memes? The memes
yes,
are
yes,
great.
I
My
have.
favorite one.
We
Go on. You can explain
we
what
we
this is.
created one. We created one with angry Metatraders of Trump
Oh
eating a
yeah, I saw
taco
that.
in front
Yeah.
of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, the expression for Trump and taco is essentially coming down to a person from the Financial Times who coined the phrase that Trump always chickens out. Whether it's true or not, it actually, in my sense, it goes right into what we were talking about here regarding valuation. He creates so much volatility in the markets that when
Yep.
he speaks, things sell off, they create value, people get more comfortable because they grab the side of their chairs or they have a cigarette or they find another way to relax. And a week later, the asset tends to bounce back up
Well, it's
based on the fact,
yeah.
no, and I'm talking about this from a trading perspective.
I know. I
Okay.
was gonna
Because you can
clarify,
see the
but go ahead.
charts where it's, volatility, you have support, resistance, you have reversals. Okay. And that's based on the fact that the financial institutions and this person that wrote about it in the Financial Times basically alluded to is that big investors realize now that Trump tends to back down. Now, let me point out here, I don't agree with this. Okay? We've known this about Trump for years. He comes in with a tough negotiation stance. He comes in with his hardest, most difficult rhetoric, okay, as a negotiation ploy. And then he takes a softer tone, okay? But people have caught on, and now they're making fun of him about this, and he took it personally.
Yeah.
He did not. He
It's
did.
his own darn fault. Yeah, it's his own fault though. His problem is that he oversells it. It's the way he does this, and this is the real estate guy in him, I guess.
I
Where
agree with that.
right, so he'll say, okay, we're raising the tariff for China to 145%. So there, and they got and talking. He talks tough until there's a deal to be made, and then what's happened is people have caught on. Other countries have caught on to this negotiating ploy, and so they'll just sit and they'll wait because they look at it as a bluff now. And do they want the tariffs? Of course not. But they know that coming in and looking like they're capitulating creates problems in their own backyard, and so they don't want to do that. Particularly China, that has to look tough to its own people. We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. So then the thing is, Trump has already talked tough and said this is now what it's going to be, and saying it's going to be this way until XYZ happens. XYZ doesn't happen. He'll wait for some little thing, and he'll either, sometimes he's been accused of lying about stuff. Like China's saying, we're not even negotiating with him. I don't know what he's talking about. He'll come back and say, well, now it's going to go down to 30% or whatever because we have, or he'll say about the British thing, we have a deal in place, but we haven't seen any deal. He's talking about things as if they exist, but they don't seem to. The Qatari airplane is another example.
Well,
where it's like they're like, well, there is no deal yet because we need some wording in this stipulation in the MOU or whatever.
This goes back.
He just overshoots the runway every time, and that's his own darn fault. And if he stops that, he won't have this problem. The other problem is that he's making fun of everybody else throughout his career. He'll list names, playground names for anybody, and when they do it to him, he gets all bent out of shape as if this is somehow unfair. So he's bringing these things on himself. You know what I mean?
Okay. This goes back to also what we've been talking about over the last couple months about the celebration dances when no victory is actually taking place.
Exactly.
And he does this with the tariffs. Supposedly, they're close to having an agreement with India. Now, there might be some kind of negotiation, I guess, going on about India taking the Apple facility away from China and how India... They definitely want to keep that in India now. They don't want to lose that. So I'm sure that's part of the negotiations that are going on right now. But it also plays into what you're talking about regarding his ability to predict great results in time periods that are a little too close. For instance, the Russian-Ukrainian situation. Ukraine announced today that it just hit a lot of Russia's long-range bombers that are capable of landing missiles, okay? Mm-hmm. And it looks like the so-called, even a ceasefire is a distance away now, and the possibility of a actual peace agreement a major distance away now, because Putin has basically played for time, a little like what you talked about with China, for a different reason, obviously. Did you see, and again, right to your point about Trump talking tough and using names, he called Putin crazy last week at some point. But then a couple of days ago, he kind of backtracked and he said, well, both Putin and Zelensky are, he didn't use the word crazy, but he said responsible or something like that for what's going on.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
On that taco thing, my favorite meme, the memes are hilarious, and this will all blow over, I'm sure, but my favorite meme so far is the one, several people have tried this, but they're all good. It's the one where the Qatari jet has been repainted with logos all over it from Panda Express, and the slogan on it is, Air Force One will be now called Panda Express because it flies around shipments of orange chicken.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. I feel that's important for everyone to know. Maybe if you find it, you should put it up on the YouTube broadcast.
There's a couple of them I've seen. Yeah, we'll do that.
And people should subscribe to our YouTube broadcast also.
Did you know that it's called cognitive, I'm going to get this wrong, cognitive behavioral therapy, where that is actually scientifically been somewhat proven. That if you create a reality or believe in a certain reality, you are rewiring your brain. If you do it often enough and envision this reality, you're rewiring your brain, and it can help you in a positive way because it can make you happier in some ways if you have a licensed therapist that can help you with it. But at the same time, it's on the flip side. That's what we're seeing with things like social media and false AI, sort of poisoning the mind of people to make them believe in conspiracy theories or this, that, or the other thing that just aren't true, and then they don't fact check them, and next thing you know, you know.
I assume you saw Emmanuel Macron get pushed at the entrance of the airplane,
I
the
did,
middle
yes.
of this week when they were in Vietnam.
Yeah, yeah.
And this was a little detrimental for his image, and he's tried to handle it by brushing it off. Any thoughts on that? Could you imagine, for instance, what would have happened if Macron was caught on film pushing his wife like that? Huh?
Um, yeah, they have today or yesterday they brushed it off as just a French thing where they're being French and they push each other around in a playful French way where they're a little bit frisky. I don't know. I saw the thing. I'm like, I mean, they're a weird couple to begin with because she's like 20 years older than him or something. Um, so
She's, I
there's
believe, actually 25 years older than him.
25 years older. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
And how
I
old were they
don't
when they
I
met?
don't
I've
mean to
heard
make that
conflicting.
ageist or sexist, but that is of interest, and it does bring up questions about their relationship. And if we're going to go down this rabbit hole, he was her student, and I'm not making this up. It's public information.